How's it going, everyone? Fever Gaming here. In today's episode, I'm bringing you the top 10 best PlayStation Network games / indie games on the PlayStation Vita. So in this list, we'll discuss all the PlayStation Network titles released on the PlayStation Store. I made a separate video on my top 15 favorite PlayStation Vita games, so make sure to check it out after this video. So this list is the combination of indie / PlayStation Network titles that are released on the PlayStation Store and don't necessarily have a retail or didn't actually come first on retail. So sit back, relax, get your PlayStation Vita, and let's enjoy the video. At number 10, we have Gravity Crush, a multi-directional shooter which plays homage to the arcade games from the 80s, similar to Defender and Galaga. You play in various planets and explore them in a two-dimensional side view. You collect gems and shoot enemies to go ahead and advance through the stages and the levels within the game. And what makes this game so appealing is the soundtrack. It really adds that oomph within this game, just beyond just shooting and collecting gems and shooting enemies. The soundtrack really adds to the experience when you're playing Gravity Crash. Really just a great title for the PlayStation Vita. At number 9, we have Fez, a puzzle platform game where you play in a two-dimensional world, which actually ends up being a three-dimensional world as you move within the world and level by rotating the level that you see. It's a very interesting concept, and other games that have something similar to that is Echo Chrome, Super Paper Mario, and Crush. The objective of the game is to collect cubes and cube fragments in order to restore order in the universe. You do so by exploring each level carefully, as there are a series of arcane codes, glyphs, treasure maps, chests, and secret rooms. So the game doesn't really give you much of an instruction, so it's up to you to figure out what to do and how to advance within the levels. What makes this game so interesting in a sense of gratification is once you've completed a task and found a secret room or a gem, is when you get that sense of experience that you actually completed something within the game. At number 8, we have Terraria, a 2D action-adventure sandbox game. The game features exploration, crafting, construction, and combat with random generated creatures, which is at times compared to Minecraft for its similarity. The graphic design is reminiscent of an old 16-bit Super Nintendo game. You customize a character and you start with very simple tools at first with a pickaxe, a sword, an axe, and notable resources known as ores can be found through cave exploration. Through the exploration within the game, you end up finding tools and weapons that are actually worthy to keep. As you improve within the game, you can go ahead and improve your arsenal of weapons for combat and exploration, to discover even more goodies and weapons, and also to fight off enemies. The gameplay, similar to Minecraft, has a lot of gameplay incentives to come back, as the exploration and the creativity within the game is endless. At number 7, we have Joe Danger the series, consisting of the first and second game. Joe Danger is a side-scrolling game that incorporates the elements of a racing game as well as a platformer game. You play as a character named Joe Danger to be exact, a once famous and respected daredevil, where an accident actually takes you out of the game. Through trials and tribulations, you want to go ahead and go back to your peak of excellence by completing different levels, essentially becoming the well-known daredevil you once were. The type of levels and stages you encounter within the game have a different dynamic from one another. It differs by completing a high score by making different combos and moves, to collecting stars, to collecting letters that spell out danger, to racing with other bikers. While the game is very reminiscent of old platformer games and Super Mario games, it still has its own uniqueness and dynamic within each level. Both games offer similar experience, with Joe Danger 2 just offering more dynamic levels. The game overall is a fantastic game on the PlayStation Vita system. At number 6, we have Super Meat Boy. In this game, you control a Meat Boy, a red square, as he attempts to rescue his girlfriend from the antagonist Dr. Fetus. The gameplay is defined by its accessible controlling and split-second timing as you run and jump through hazardous levels to proceed further within the level. The game takes inspiration from platform games, similar to the Impossible game, where precision and accuracy when you jump is very crucial. Everything within the game, from the soundtrack to its addicting gameplay mechanics, the game overall plays well and executes well on the PlayStation Vita. At number 5, we have a well-established franchise, Minecraft on the PlayStation Vita. Minecraft is a 3D open-world sandbox game. So the game itself is very subjective when it comes to an objective. So essentially, you start in a random generated world similar to Terraria, and you start with basic tools from pickaxe to a sword or whatever it may be, and afterwards you want to go ahead and do some cave exploration where you can go ahead and find essential tools which help you build up your own arsenal and improve upon weapons. If you want to get the full experience, whether that means fighting the Ender Dragon or that means fighting the Wither, you'd have to go ahead and complete different tasks and be able to spawn those creatures. The game is endless with all the possibilities you can ever imagine, all on the go. At number 4, we have Binding of Isaac the series, including the first and second game. Binding of Isaac is a top-down dungeon crawler game in a two-dimensional presentation, where you play the character known as Isaac, among other characters which you can go ahead and unlock as you proceed within the levels. The main objective of the game is for you to explore dangerous dungeons that exist in your basement, and each character within the game has a strength and a weakness. Those strengths and weakness vary from speed to damage they can do to the health, which makes the game and the level you're in very interesting. Within each basement room, you end up battling a monster which needs to be completed before you can go ahead and advance within the game. With all the characters, power-ups, and swarm of enemies the game throws at you, the game is very fast-paced and adds a very exciting yet kind of creepy feeling to the game, which I actually found very, very fun. At number 3, we have a Velocity 2X, which is a super fast-paced platformer game. The game also throws in different puzzles that makes it a little bit more challenging, but yet also kind of interesting as you go ahead and advance within the game. The soundtrack is a very nice complement within the game as it adds to that fast-paced combat. The main objective of the game is for you to travel different planets and for you to rescue stranded ships as you avoid and maneuver around different enemies. As you advance within the game gives you different abilities and obstacles for you to kind of maneuver and go around, which adds to that incentive to keep on going and playing. At number 2, we have Hotline Miami, the first and second game, and I can't believe I said trilogy when I did the top 15 PlayStation Vita video. Number 6, we have the Hotline Miami trilogy, which includes the first and second one, and I appreciate for you guys clarifying and pointing that out within the video. Thanks a lot, man. Hotline Miami is a 2D top-down fast-paced action game set in Miami in 1989. The story consists of two protagonists, Jacket and Biker, whom receive random phone calls instructing them to commit massacres against the local Russian mafia. Beyond the fast-paced element, the extreme violence and the surreal storytelling, which is intriguing and mysterious at the same time, the soundtrack is really what gives this game that oomph and satisfaction once you complete a level. And it's very surreal and even more better when you play it on the PlayStation Vita with some earphones and headphones because, oh man, this game with that soundtrack, it's a masterpiece. Hotline Miami 2 is very similar to the first one. Now you have more characters to choose from and has a very dynamic feeling as each character has different weaponry that they can go ahead and advance within each level. It makes for very interesting and at times frustrating combat, but at the same time, once you complete it, very satisfying. This is one of those games I found myself unable to put down because it was just so fun. The soundtrack was just a huge compliment to the game and it's just a very rewarding game overall. Now, before we get to the number 1 PlayStation Network game on the PlayStation Vita, I want to go ahead and give an honorable mention sequence of all the games that are still fun, but unfortunately did not make the list. And at number 1 we have, drumroll please, Super Rubadub. This excellent and well executed, I can't even keep a serious face. This game is trash. Did you see the reviews on that? The number 1 game on the PlayStation Network that's also on the PlayStation Vita is Guacamelee. Guacamelee is an action platformer game that draws inspiration from the traditional Mexican culture folklore, which makes me feel right at home. You play as the main character known as Juan as he fights enemies with basic attacks, and overall within the game ends up increasing those abilities, and being able to throw enemies to their death is so satisfying in this game. The story is that you're in love with the president's daughter, or El Presidente's daughter, but unfortunately there's an evil skeleton known as Charo causing mayhem to your village and kidnaps the love of your life. So that's the incentive for you to travel within different levels and dynamics within the game to find the Presidente's daughter. As you combat different enemies, you end up earning coins, which you can go ahead and spend by unlocking new stages, increasing your health, attacks, in addition to the combat the game already gives you. The game also throws in puzzle stages and special enemies that can only be defeated with a certain type of move. And honestly, I fell in love with this game. Something about like how beautiful it stood out on the PlayStation Vita, especially if you have the old Vita, the OLED screen, the dynamic and the coloring, everything about this game really stood out to me. And essentially, it was just a fun game that, similar to Hotline Miami, this is one of those games you will not regret on the PlayStation Network, and really adds that experience within the PlayStation Vita platform. Well, this concludes the top 10 PlayStation Network games on the PlayStation Vita. Make sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed the video, and also comment down below what games within the list that I mentioned do you currently own or plan on getting, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.